Klonoa. Childhood trauma never felt so good. Klonoa's gut-punching ending. Klonoa will change your life. Okay. So we have ourselves a little bit of what the kids called nostalgia with this one. But what's funny is that the sequel doesn't usually get the same level of treatment. To appreciate what the heart of Klonoa has to offer, we also need to appreciate the lessons and messaging of its through line. This is the story of Heartbreak. This is the story of Resolve. Also the story where I become hyper-fixated on the devs and learn something that all Klonoa fans need to know, but you don't. Our story begins not with Namco, but Tecmo, with the creation of this small, obscure niche series known as Ninja Gaiden?
Ninja Gaiden! Hey!
Hideo Yoshizawa didn't originally go into game directing. He was somebody that dreamed to be a filmmaker or a manga artist. Video games just happened to be the career he found himself in. Rather than trying to follow the same path of the arcade port, which was more of a classic beat-em-up, his version would be reminiscent of Castlevania. It would have precise play, with discoverable secondary weapons affecting how you would approach a level. The biggest difference was the allowed sense of freedom and control compared to the stiff, specific movements of Konami's efforts. While its gameplay is still copied and iterated on to this day, the real success was something very specific. Ninja Gaiden wasn't just an action game. It was film, it was anime, brought to life on 8-bit hardware. This was the first time a console player experienced anything like this, and it would plant the seeds down the line that would allow for more experimental and story-driven games to follow. But after the trilogy was completed, Tecmo really didn't know what to do with this talent. Yoshizawa would be a scenario writer for this obscure action RPG hybrid known as the Chronicle of Radio War for the Famicom, which would use some of the cutscene techniques from Ninja Gaiden, but I'm sure I won't be bringing this up again. And more importantly, Smash Tennis, basic tennis game for the SNES. Although, fun fact, in the Japanese version, our man did a PT and snuck in a hidden story mode that the studio wouldn't have been aware of, literally opening with a kidnapping to prevent the player from being the tennis champion. Honestly, for that alone, this guy belongs up there with Kojima, Yoko Taro, and Suda51. The claim is he left Tecmo after this radical move, specifically because he wanted to work on more story-driven productions.
Are you sure about that?
Originally, Klonoa was going to be a licensed title based off this manga called Spriggan. And when the deal fell through, Yoshizawa was given a new sense of freedom. He was no longer bound by existing IPs or supporting roles, but was simply ordered to create the modern mascot for Namco. This wasn't a character that would exist for a game or two, but a character who would thrive for years to come. To do that, we needed a hug. Where did dreams go when they are forgotten? Thinking something close to Link's Awakening, but more fleshed out. Every game could be another dream world, and our friend would be the dream traveler, the one who finds themselves lost in mysterious worlds, saves the day, and then has to poochie his way over to the next game. The idea was a hit, and the green light was given. But the bosses at Namco said, "We want a little marketable dude. I want children who will become trans people with stuffed animals when they grow up to cuddle this one till the end of time." It was an oddly specific request, but he knew the man for the job. Yoshihiko Arai, whose name I will butcher, I really need to stop playing so many Japanese games when I'm dyslexic, tried to incorporate different animal designs into one.
I am so great, everybody loves me.
the face of a cat, the ears of a bunny, sorta, and a kind of collar that's just way too big for the little guy. Klonoa isn't cool. He's cute. He's little brother energy. His design feels small and a little awkward, making the adventure feel larger as a fish out of water. And as tribute to Namco's previous mascot, he also wears a little Pac-Man hat, which at the time did not feel like a high school kid with the Triforce shirt and the khaki pants. You know who we are. I mean, Klonoa was pitched in a very unique spot in gaming, where 3D was the big new thing. The Japanese players found themselves motion sick, not really able to handle the added dimension. Since Klonoa was aimed at a younger audience, the devs aimed to make a 2.5D platformer. The character models would all be pre-rendered sprites, kind of like Donkey Kong Country. This would actually be kind of genius, because the processing power would all go to the environment, making sure the game ran smoothly, giving it this unique visual style. And there'd be a lot of fun tricks you could do with this, since the game was played as a 2D game. You could jump onto a different path that would take you to a different part of the level, or attacking enemies and objects in the background or foreground. So how would this thing play? We have an environment to take advantage of, but if Mario existed, he wouldn't have a moveset to account for this extra level of dimension. Well, the devs created a really effective grab mechanic. You could pick up an enemy, and then you had the option to throw the enemy. Throwing them downwards would give you a double jump. And that aha moment led to chaining these together or attacking enemies on the ground. Add in this little Yoshi hover for extra maneuverability, and it's just a perfect little gameplay mechanic. There's just so much room to iterate on. And it's not surprising to me there's 4 spin-off games when the core gameplay lends itself so well to puzzle-based platforming. And while we can clinically look at all these pieces and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, this is great, we're missing a major piece of this puzzle. This game has vibes. Its dreamlike logic and use of color blend whimsy and melancholy. Colorful corners, cozy and cute. Canvas of clouds where dreams take root. Brightly blooming, bizarrely bold, whimsical wonders and worlds untold. Playful palettes paint paths so pure, curious creatures captivating allure. This thing is a genuine piece of art and deserves to be cherished. Well, I think it's time we talked about the story. You should grab a tissue. No reason. We begin our story with a monologue about forgotten dreams, looking back in a forgotten memory. Klonoa dreams of the day he met his best friend, Yu-Peng, a spirit of the ring, followed by an airship crashing into a nearby mountain. But what's funny is even though this was a dream, this immediately happens, as if he was taken by a vision of the future. On his way to investigate, he stumbles upon the beginnings of a tower, being built by an old man. He's so in love with the singer of the Song of Rebirth, he's building a tower to reach the Moon Kingdom for a chance to meet her. Hell, he literally carved her face into a local hill. Oh hey, does that look familiar? Klonoa finds himself on Bell Hill, where he encounters Gradius, a dark spirit of nightmares. And Laphise, the diva able to heal this world through song. And Joka.
I'm the Joker, baby.
After defeating the boss, Klonoa discovers the pendant beneath the bell and asks his grandpa for advice. He holds on to the pendant and sends us on our way. I'm not going to do a point by point, but it's made really clear nightmare magic is infecting and poisoning this land. This is a world of dreams, slowly being fueled by nightmares. Good characters are becoming evil, heroes are imprisoned, and as we fix one wrong, 2 mores pop up in its place. There's some brilliant imagery here with the dreamlike logic. The forest is dying because the waterfall is going backwards. So when we go back to the forest, plants begin to grow. You get to impact the world in subtle ways. I like that. And when we finally do meet with Grandma, she says the world was created by a dream. And if we gave the moon medallion to the Sun Temple, we'll go straight to the moon kingdom. To the Moon Kingdom. This is also where we get a little bit of a tone shift. We've gone from happier levels to something darker and more atmospheric. Even when we get back to the Wind Village, something seems off. The caves are darker with bones, and the world is going darker. You ever have one of those dreams where everything is happy, but you're just waiting the turn for the nightmare? Well, that's the vibes on display. And when we finally get home, In our grief, Hyupo rushes the whole mourning thing. And to be fair to Hyupo, we are in an emergency, with the end of the world very likely to happen. And Grandpa ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3, but the vibes seem off. We reach the top of the tower and reunite with our villains. It's time to go one-on-one with Joka himself. And we've been building up to this battle since the beginning, and while he has proved himself incompetent defeating us in the past, surely his nightmare forms will— Nope, he's dead. The tower rises from the earth, the Moon Kingdom filled with nightmare energy, tearing our world apart. When we get to the kingdom, Hyupo seems distracted. Almost like he's doing that thing I do where I think I've said something stupid and upset someone, but the other person is over it, and yet my mind keeps wrapping around it, thinking I should have done something different, and I get so overly apologetic, and then that becomes annoying, so I have to find the balance. Nightmares in Klonoa aren't really scary as much as they are the inverse of whimsy. The music becomes dreamlike, with the visuals taking advantage of the black and different colors with the crystal to create this impression in the mind. We meet with the people of this kingdom, and more importantly, the true origins of Hyupo. He was the prince of the Moon Kingdom, not merely some friend we met in the forest, but royalty. Not that that matters much to Klonoa. He's his oldest friend. This type of information doesn't impact this friendship. We finally meet back with Gradius, who seeks revenge on this world of dreams, where nightmares became segregated from existence. From his perspective, nightmares are a necessary evil, and to deny their existence is to deny the thing that allows dreams to be. Klonoa, of course, doesn't really grasp any of this, so I'm just gonna kill this guy. And even though this all wraps up with such an easy bow, Nahatum shows himself, the ultimate evil, the ultimate nightmare. All of our friends through the game re-emerge with cannons, just go with it, as we finish these nightmares once and for all. The diva is saved, the world will be saved, as the Song of Rebirth will fix this world. I'm going to play this ending scene in its entirety, and if you wish to skip, go to this timestamp. It's not enough that this is a sad ending. This is actually a disturbing ending. The grandpa Klonoa mourned, his home, his life, his friendship, were all lies, all manufactured. Yu-Peng wasn't Klonoa's friend. He gaslit Klonoa this entire game. He was comfortable convincing this child that this was his world to save, that this was his reality. But Klonoa, all of his agency was stripped. He's a lost soul, traveling from world to world, but this first adventure is one based off of bad intentions. Honestly, I think the villain might have a point in this story. This is a world of dreams so afraid of nightmares, so they wouldn't have a place in this world. And when all of it got too much for the world to handle, they need an outsider to fix the problem. Klonoa isn't just sad, it's depressing. It's a story of gaslighting in the realest sense by bad faith actors. And if we just talked about the original game, I'd be ending this video on such a downer of a mood. So I'm gonna do something weird. Let's take a little intermission before we talk about the second game directly, because there's a lot to talk about, and some of the most fun parts of talking about Klonoa can be right here in this intermission period before we get back into the emotion of things. For example, hey, did you know Klonoa has a remake? And it sucks. I'm sorry, I shouldn't phrase it like that. It's not great. It's based off the Wii version of Klonoa, and while it's certainly the easiest way to get a copy, it just feels off. The cutscenes are paced very slowly, and the mechanics just decide not to work sometimes. I don't enjoy being negative because it's a goal of mine to be more of an antidote to cynicism, but it's not a great port. But it is the best legal way to support the series, and for that deserves some credit. Also, hey, there's 4 spin-offs in this series. While I'm not going to do a deep dive on all of them, I did want to focus on the WonderSwan version of Klonoa. Klonoa Moonlight Museum is a non-canon side story. Yu-Peng was there for some reason, and it takes advantage of what handhelds do best: puzzles. It makes a slower paced game that keeps the core of what makes Klonoa fun, but it's more complex in its room layout. You can see how a GBA game would evolve from this one, since the mechanics are so similar in terms of level design. They don't feel like stages, they are puzzle rooms, and it's a real treat. And the director of this was still Yoshizawa, while 2 would have a brand new director that also worked on the original game. But what I really want to talk about during this intermission, let's really dive into Chronicle of Radio Roar just for a second. After Ninja Gaiden, there was a big push by Temco in Japan. They treated this game as the last great RPG for the Famicom, and if not for fan translations, it'd be lost to history. It's a strange hybrid of real-time combat and a JRPG strategy game. It's closest in my head to like Secret of Mana, where you have your combat of the one character, but your party are all fighting with you on screen, and you can give them some very basic orders. It's a super charming game, but even with its advanced ideas, somehow on the NES game, it actually works extremely well. Its difficulty curve is solid. Maybe it's a little bit on the easy side, but it feels like it pushes you just far enough to not let yourself get bored. It feels like this essential game to the genre that doesn't really get talked about. And part of the reason this video took so long is I had to do a complete playthrough. No, I had to because, hey, let's talk about this narrative just really quickly. The game opens with a woman crashing her ship into a mountain, and you, the player, wake up with amnesia. A man known as Gattius steals the princess. The world turns out to be a giant dream, and an evil version of yourself reveals you were never truly a part of this world. You end up fighting the embodiment of nightmares, and you are cast into a void to some other unknown reality. That's right, this game is very reminiscent of Digital Devil Saga. So what's the deal with Klonoa 2? Well, when the first game came out, it wasn't as big of a hit as you may be expecting, especially in the West. There's a couple reasons for this. 1997 was one of the biggest years in gaming. Like, we're talking Final Fantasy VII, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, GoldenEye, Star Fox 64, Mega Man Legend, Riven, Quake 2, Tekken 3, Tomb Raider 2, Crash Bandicoot 2, Fallout, Diddy Kong Racing, Final Fantasy Tactics, Rock, Oddworld. But honestly, the biggest thing that was was going against Klonoa was that it was not a game that was committed to 3D. This was a game that holds up incredibly well today, but at the time, we were so caught up in the excitement of 3D that people were just not thrilled about using sprites. Even with the low sales, Namco believed in the IP, and even founded Klonoa Works, a studio specifically created for Klonoa projects. The sequel would keep the strengths of the original gameplay, but with a new look, making the visual style closer to a cel-shaded work. Because all the models were in-engine, this would be easier for the developers to have more dynamic camera angles. This could be taken advantage of in multiple ways. For example, it was more possible now to design your level with more verticality, where the camera could pan up and down, really highlighting the elevation with more dynamicism within the stage. There would also be these little cannons that shoot Klonoa out into the background. This would serve two purposes. It could force a player to stop, rest, and thus pace the levels out with more high-tension moments, but it also allows the levels to be seen from various viewpoints. The full environment is allowed to be appreciated in more distinct ways. Mechanically, Klonoa 2 doesn't overly complicate what makes the original gameplay, but what it does do is take inspiration from Kirby, with different enemies you can grab that may or may not have unique characteristics, like a power-up. It keeps the core gameplay intact, but allows for more puzzle-solving opportunities, which is Klonoa's biggest strength. Klonoa himself has had a major design shift. As much as I love this little guy, as a silhouette, he doesn't work as well as you'd think. It's a very busy design. They stripped Klonoa back into something more traditional, while holding on to the signature hat. The difference is, we've gone from little brother to older brother energy. This guy's cool. He's seen R-rated movies. If the first game is Tails, the second game is Sonic, the role model that the original would look up to. And thankfully in-game, he still keeps his optimistic, fun personality. He's just wiser, with a growth spurt to really relay the passage of time. I've just been talking about Sora from Kingdom Hearts 2 this entire time, and you didn't even notice. Our story begins on the reflection of forgotten dreams, a world lost to the history of the mind. He lands in the eye of an oceanic storm, under a watchful eye of some mysterious figures. The priestess in training, Lolo, discovers Klonoa alongside her best friend, Papka. Klonoa is the dream traveler, once again summoned to another world, and they travel to a mysterious prophet together, who states that this world has 4 bells, and when sounded, can save this world similarly to the Song of Rebirth. Dark forces are introducing a mysterious 5th bell that can change the balance of the universe. The problem is that the 5th one is like evil or something, so we can't let that happen. This premise strikes me as very similar to Final Fantasy X. Both are stories about dream traveling with a small group aiding a priestess to effectively cleanse the world from some great catastrophe. The big difference is that Klonoa is cute. Talking to the High Priestess, she believes in Lolo, even though she's only been in training until this point. And it's understood she's moving up the ranks faster due to the necessity of the mission. But just when we were about to head out the door, the Sky Pirates show up as a foil. Lorena and Tat, possibly the queerest names I've heard today, seeks to steal the ring too. Well, we don't know why pirates are so cool, but they do cool things. We put a stop to them and head our way to the amusement park. The trans-girliest cat is split into 2, this is literally my life, and you have to get them both. Honestly, as the level goes, this is one of my favorites. I think a lot of it comes from the amount of things going on. We have verticality, dynamic fun backgrounds, spooky houses, is that a meal? And a full-on surfing section that is very Sonic Adventure. After stopping Tat, we're on our way.
The convenience stores of Speedway.
The city is based around the Bell of Discord, and all of the day-to-day life is hit by a perpetual war. Fire in the streets, homes and property ruined by bombs. We end up in what is my favorite boss fight in the game, this vertical showcase that shows the original core mechanics and gives them that extra jolt. we were too late, as a sky pirate somehow crafted a perfect copy of the ring. Hell, she used the data from our fight with the boss to create it. This is the first reused level in the game, and while I should be annoyed that it's the same architecture, it's hard to be upset when they use this opportunity to make a thrilling chase sequence. Each cannon warp is just enough time to get out of the way of the complete destruction as the city falls apart before your eyes. It's a spectacle. Our next stop is the Bell of Indecision, which is far away enough that we actually need to use an ancient arc to get there. I don't have a whole lot to say about the arc other than that it's pretty. It seems to be a giant mechanical structure with different engines requiring waking up. But honestly, the arc, aside from looking cool, doesn't give me much to talk about. But now it's time for a banger. We have the coolest snowboard level in games, with this constant momentum and peak imagery. But this song is Klonoa 2 to me. This song is what I like to call objectively good, and I know I'm using it wrong, but I do not care. It's glossed in this hype that is so infectious. I wish I knew how to talk about music, because I just love it this much. It's got a good BPM or whatever. It's good shit. It's such good shit that it's time for a downer. As we go into the maze of memories, a mysterious hall where the art collected serves as memories of the past. This is perfect for the Bell of Indecision because it keeps you in a limbo state. The architecture is nonsensical and surrealist, with some of the puzzles really taking advantage of this space. Easily a highlight of the game and my personal favorite section. Lolo grew up being told she wouldn't be enough, that she wasn't capable, that she was a failure. And while powering through the adventure, she also knows that she wouldn't even be priestess if not for happening to find Klonoa. At the Bell of Indecision, all of her past traumas have caught up to her. She's not enough. How could she be enough? She's not worthy. Seeing this outsider go through so much for her and her world gives Lolo the confidence to push forward. And together the boss is defeated and the bell is rang. We go back to the Prophet, but uh-oh, it looks like they're playing a turtle guy from Master of Disguise. This was a setup. Lorena has all of the elements now, and her wish is to put the world in harm's way for abandoning her. The next stage is the chaos affecting the world, and honestly, it's a pretty dull retread, which upsets me to say. Thematically, this should be really impressive, but it really is just...
What if it was purple?
We speak with the High Priestess, who refers to Lorena by her fucking dead name, I'm blurring that out, and that she was a priestess herself. But due to her desire to skip the training, she ended up wanting to take power for her own hands. She raises the Kingdom of Sorrow, home of the final bell that infects this world. When we do track her down, the power of sorrow overwhelms her in this epic fight that... well, we won. She wanted to use this power to defeat sorrow itself, but unfortunately she was no match. But now she's on our side, all of us in unison to stop this final kingdom from destroying this world. It is said that Klonoa 1 ended on the most beautiful note, and Klonoa 2 does so much the same. But its beauty is that of melancholy. The world features broken structures, ominous landscapes, I can't say ominous, and lingering spirals. Spirals can symbolize the cylindrical nature of emotions. Just as a spiral can loop back on itself, feelings of sadness can reoccur and evolve over time. It's all-consuming, overwhelming. We meet with the King of Sorrow, and it's no mistake he looks similar to Klonoa's design. In fact, look carefully at the scarf around his neck. It's a visual parallel to Klonoa in the first game. This is the emotional grief of the first adventure made manifest. This is who Klonoa would have become if he was trapped by the events of the first game, by the harm that was done to him. The fifth bell wasn't a bell added to this world, it was of this world. Sorrow coexisted with the land and was pushed aside, similar to how nightmares were handled in the first game. The king was also the very prophet that led us here, wanting us to end things. or to fix, so that you may atone for the sins of the world. I've thought about this line a lot. Is this world a dream of Klonoa's, or the world punishing this part of him not able to move on? Or is it that he's being punished for the sins of the world itself, where he's once again repeating the cycle of trying to cast out parts of the world for its own protection? Lorena cuts into the king to harm this creature for bringing sorrow into the world, to hate them, to hate what that sorrow represents, as it's eaten her alive. And Klonoa sees this and understands what he must do.
Yurava! Boom! Ryu, Paramu, Tunan Ruya, Paramu Tunan Yukahu, Numurina Wina Lakurdu, Numufina Elnauno Turafi, Yumuru, Ura, Uebra, Ryu, Yutron Corina, Elna Urumu Manura, Kuro, Ryu, Erafi, Manu Paramu, Wanirupu, Iruara, Rupudur, Turaha, Fiara, Radu.
At the end of our tale, once again Klonoa is left with his friend for a tearful goodbye. He simply cannot stay in this world. Lolo decides that she's going to earn Priestess the proper way, the real way. This time Klonoa knows what must be done, now with new meaning. Ultimately, what I take from the story of Klonoa is this. We have a character who was traumatized and taken away from everything he had based on a lie by someone who learned to love him. If the original game ends up on a moment of despair, the second game opens up with someone who's grown and worked through this baggage. He didn't let that lifetime be the thing that defined him. He grew from those experiences and decided to reincorporate that pain for good, to help those in need, to be the figure that he needed in the past. And ironically, by following that path, he ended up healing himself in the process. I would like to thank my Patreon backers, Megan Cherry, Rick Elijah, Wispy, Video Witch. Before this last video, we were about just getting to the point of 500 subs on this channel, and the last video blew up in a way I could not possibly have anticipated. I'm all in on the YouTube thing. I am so genuinely appreciative of everyone who stopped by to check that video out, and I'm even more appreciative of those that have subscribed to the channel. The best way to support me currently is either by becoming a YouTube member or supporting me on Patreon. Patreon members and YouTube members will have early access to future content. I will keep you updated what we're doing and what the future of the channel holds, and you'll see some behind the scenes content. But even for those who are not donating, I'm so genuinely moved by the response that I've received, and I'm going to put my full heart into this channel, and I hope you're there with me for the ride. Thank you.